Hello everyone, welcome to this demo. I want to show you here how we can handle long-running tasks in application integration using pub/sub, right? So instead of having a timeout or waiting for, we don't have enough time to process long-running tasks, this is a strategy for dealing with those tasks that take longer than 2 to 3 minutes, right? This can happen, right? That we have processing that takes 5 or 10 minutes or even longer. And currently in application integration, usually we'll get a timeout of those types of service calls using, for example, the REST task or the REST connector, or whenever you do a web service call. So this solution is going to show how this can be avoided using async processing and also pub/sub events. So let's take a deeper look. Basically how this works is that when a client starts an integration flow, they can start an async version of a flow. They can also start a sync version, but that'll take the entire time, right? So that could take 5 or 10 minutes depending on how long the processing takes. But the async version will not wait for the sync version to complete. This will then call the service, right? So I have a Cloud Run sleep service that can sleep for 10 or however many minutes we like. When it's finished, it posts a pub/sub event that then also is received in our application integration flow to continue processing, right? For example, to take the results and do something with them and get them back to the client. So the client, of course, has to be able to work with this async approach. And it can't wait for the results directly, but it can receive them asynchronously through additional flows in application integration. So let's take a look at the demo in action. So here is the example integration canvas that we have. And as you can see, we have two triggers for APIs, a sync version and an async version. The async version simply calls our sync version, but using the async strategy, right? So it's not going to wait for a response. Our sync version calls our web service, and the web service is just a test service where we can pass in how many milliseconds we want to sleep. So that's that'll take that long. And it also posts a pub/sub message when it's finished, which we receive here in this trigger, and then we can continue processing from there, right? So it's a way of dividing up the work, and when things are finished, we can continue processing. The great thing about application integration is that we can do all of this in one canvas, which I think is great, right? I mean, this is really cool to be able to do sync processing, async processing, receive events. This makes it super easy to continue processing, to link, where we should continue, what should we do? And so this really makes, doing async processing a breeze. And this simplifies these types of workflows. And, this is the type of event-driven architecture that helps make the entire thing less brittle. We don't have to deal with timeouts. We can handle this in a very flexible way, right? So this is already running, deployed. Let's jump over to the source code. And I can show you, if you clone the GitHub repository that's linked here, you'll have all of the assets here, including the integration flow that I just showed you, the service, a Go service that's easy to deploy to Cloud Run to do the sleeping, some tests, automatic tests, and then the scripts to do all of the deployments, right? So the create resource script deploys all the assets into your Google Cloud project. And then we can do a test flow sync, which simply calls our API trigger with a sync of for example, 15 seconds, just to show how that works. Let's go ahead and call it. So this will get back to us after 15 seconds. So that was a synchronous call. And then the next time we'll try the async one and see how that works. Yeah, wow, 15 seconds takes longer than you think. There we are. So that finished in 16 seconds. The async version is going to call the async trigger, and it's going to pass in 5 minutes as a sleep, right? So it doesn't make sense to wait for this because it will time out if we do that. So let's go ahead and trigger it and see what happens. Oops. So test flow async. And as you can see, this one comes right back. So it finished in 1 second. And if we go back to the browser, let's go into the logging, and we can see exactly what's going on here. So you see, first we got our async call, and it succeeded. And now we're in the sync call that's going to do the 5-minute processing, for example. But you see from a previous call here that the trigger, the pub sub message comes back to continue processing, right? So anytime this finishes, whenever, right, then we'll get this trigger through the pub sub message that does processing, and for example, has the wake up message that came back from our Go service, right? So we're not going to wait for the 5 minutes here, but eventually we will have a successful pub sub trigger and flow as well, where we got our wake up and did further processing. Cool, so I hope that was interesting. And this kind of illustrates, a way of dividing up processing using various types of triggers, async and sync, in an application integration workflow. Check out the GitHub repository with the assets. It's very easy to deploy. It should be very straightforward to deploy it into your own Google Cloud project. And thank you very much.